Hi everyone.
Hi, welcome to another Kitronik Materials live stream.
Yeah.
I'm Dominic Morrow from Smoke Mirrors.
I'm Emma Goldsmith from Kitronik.
Welcome. So we've not seen you for a little while. We had some holidays and vacationings and so on, but we should be coming back monthly, the first Thursday of every month going forward. And today we're going to talk about an acrylic.
Yes, yeah.
Mirrored acrylic, which
Yes.
I'm going to get a big piece and hold it up. So that's acrylic that has the same properties, although not the same chemical properties, as a mirror.
Yeah, indeedly. So you've been doing some learning about this one,
Well,
haven't
we've
you?
both been looking into it, but I think we should start with what's available from
Oh,
Kitronik.
yeah, absolutely.
So bring that up on screen.
Absolutely. Let me just...
Now, there is a range of colours. The size of the sheet is usually 3mm thick. Well, in the case of the one sold at Kitronik's, all 3mm thick. And it behaves just like a clear or an opaque acrylic. But it is available in
So we have
a
many
range of colours.
We do have many colours, yeah. So as you see here, just so you can find it yourselves, going to materials, perspex, and then clear mirrored acrylic sheets.
Clear and mirrored acrylic sheets.
Yeah, and then if you just want to find the mirrored, just come down here to the sidebar, click mirror, and it'll sort by just the mirrored stuff. So actually one that I forgot to bring up is this rose gold. So this is first colour we have here. You can see reflecting our Move Mini there. That's the rose gold colour. We have these solid colours, which are red, purple, gold, bronze and green, and then we have silver, and obviously, you know,
Yeah, the silver's what you'd think of as a traditional looking mirror.
Yeah.
Whereas the rose gold's like got a tint to it, and the green has got a tint. So they're still you can see yourself in them, sort of. But they got like a coloration through the acrylic. I mean, it's literally the same as the silvered mirror is the same as a piece of clear 3mm acrylic.
Yes, yeah.
With the mirrored coating on the back.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
In fact, let's hold that up near the camera so you can see, just like a mirror. So there's our camera.
Hi, look, you can see yourselves.
But if I hold the green one up, I'm going to do the one with the engraving on the back.
Yeah.
You can see the camera, but you get that green tint through it. And I'll do the same with a piece of...
That's rose gold.
This is the rose gold. I don't know, like, it's showing the cameras a bit like having the boom mic in shot. Okay, it's a little bit inside baseball for you.
It is a little bit. You can't see the colour so much on that one. That's a bit more of a subtle colour. So if we go ahead and swap to the demo cam, actually, there's a couple of bits and pieces on there, and those are all in the rose gold.
Oh, there's me. Oh. Bring up the rose gold, and you can see that I'm actually looking at the screen rather than at the piece, which is weird. But anyway, so we've engraved on the top of the rose gold in that situation, in that case. And what I want to do, actually, just to talk very quickly about the difference between engraving on the front and on the back. So these two pieces here that I'm holding up, and I will bring them into focus in a second. One, this is the back. So this is the coating on the back of the mirrored acrylic. This one's like the traditional looking silvered mirror. And you can see on one, I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see it too. On one of them, we've got the coating on the back has been engraved away. I think it might be better if I move that out of the way.
Yeah, you can sort of see it against the green.
And on this one, I mean, they're the same size and the same, literally the same piece, but one was engraved with the mirror face down on the laser cutter, and the other was engraved with the mirror face up on the laser cutter, and it produces quite an interesting difference in effect. So I'll start with the one that's engraved on the surface of the mirrored acrylic, And the interesting thing about that is, and I wonder how well we can see it if I bring it right up and then try and focus the camera.
There you go.
Well, I'm going to describe it because it's a little tricky to see, but I've used this sort of border,
like a floral border.
like a floral border as my little pattern. Feel free, Emma, to focus that.
If I hold my hand sort of here-ish, you can probably tilt towards my hand and see the border some more.
But what I'm trying to talk about here is that because I've engraved it on the surface of the acrylic, it's not engraved into the reflective part of it, and so it's actually mirrored. So I'm getting the surface engraving and a reflection of the engraving on the mirrored part. And it yes, so I think if you look at that flower just there, you can see that it's sort of duplicated, and so it gives quite a different effect to if I show you the one where it's engraved on the back. So obviously it's engraved on the coating on the back. I think you can see that. And then as you look at the front, it's the coatings removed behind the acrylic, the clear acrylic, leaving a sort of a silvery looking pattern. And so they are quite distinct. You can sort of see a bit of difference on the camera, but it's very distinct to the eye, is my point.
Yeah.
And that is particularly apparent when you look at the green acrylic, which this one that's on the right of your screen, in my right hand, you can only just see the pattern on the camera, but it's quite distinct as I look at it with the eye. But the engraving on the left-hand piece is very distinct, where you can actually see the damage. I mean, like the purposeful damage, the engraving of the surface of the acrylic. And again, if I flip them over, you can see that the coating has been removed on the one, but not on the other.
As the difference is, if you were to want to choose between one or the other, whether you want a more subtle or a more contrasting pattern. Yes,
and especially with this tinted one, where the markings behind it are very, very subtle. I think a little classier.
I think so. I think I can see that being a decoration on like an actual mirror, whereas the other one is like you're using the mirrored acrylic as a perhaps like I've seen a few people use mirrored acrylic in that way for signs at the front of weddings.
Yes,
on an easel or something.
I have seen a technique, and I think I've spoken about this before, and we should do it one time on the live stream.
Oh yeah.
Is where someone took a wax crayon, melted it into a deep engraving, and so the wax crayon colour sat out, like really popped within the holes of the engraving, and they polished that up. Scraped it away, so it left exactly that.
Oh,
so if you imagine
really
that
cool.
with white wax crayon or something, that would look really good. Although it would melt.
Yes. Yes.
only indirect sunlight maybe. So we've talked a bit about the coating, but I think you've got an example here which really demonstrates how the mirrored acrylic is made.
Yeah. So this was one of the two sort of don't do this examples, but really what you can see here, if you turn it over, Dominic, is you can see that there is a silvered coating, which does produce that mirrored effect. You can see a little bit of reflection in it, and then there's that darker grey, which is a protective coating, and then just on top is a layer of 3mm acrylic, which, as Dominic is demonstrating, you can see all the way through.
You can see right through it. It's essentially a piece of clear acrylic with that backing on it. And you've used isopropyl alcohol and I assume some vigour to...
Not too much, actually.
Oh, okay, so yeah.
Yes. It's... Isopropyl alcohol is mostly just very bad for the coatings. I'll probably go into that later as we look into some what not to do's.
But yeah,
yes.
that gives you an idea of how it's all working. And one of the things that I've often thought about, as someone that sort of mends laser cutters and services them, is I can imagine a scenario whereby someone might say that, why am I buying molybdenum or silicon mirrors when I could just make my own laser cutter mirror out of mirrored acrylic? Well, I did that, and here's the little mirror I made. So it's the mirrors often on most CO2 water cooled laser cutters, and in fact CO2 air cooled ones, are 3mm thick, just like our acrylic is. So I cut a 25mm diameter mirror for the laser cutter and fit it into a laser cutter, and I think there's a little video and I'll talk through as we watch it.
There is indeed.
So yeah, that's the mirror fitted. Can you pause it?
I'm not
or does
sure.
it just loop?
It loops.
Well,
yes.
So the first thing I noticed as I put it in is because the mirrored coating is on the back of the mirror,
yes.
It already moves the reflective point of the mirror from the front of the mirror. So on your laser cutter, if you're using molybdenum mirrors, molybdenum's a metal that's highly polished. So like polishing silver or whatever, when you're looking at it, you're seeing a reflection not through the glass and then onto a coating like you would with a mirror in your house, but literally on the surface. So the point at which the laser beam reflects is on the surface of a real laser mirror, but on a on a piece of mirrored acrylic, which isn't a real laser mirror. When I put that in there, it has to push all the way through that 3mm acrylic to get to the reflective part.
Oh, so it shifts the whole...
So it shifts the whole thing. So straight off, from a physics point of view, from an optics point of view, your mirrored part, and we'll get to whether it works or not, if it did work, isn't in the right place. So that's the first point. Second point is it doesn't work because it's just a tiny, very fine coating of silvered, a silvered coating, as we've said. Yeah. It's not correct to call it a paint or what have you, but it is applied to the back as a coating. It just it is. In this case, I did a very quick pulse, and it's not enough to reflect any usable beam back. It has reflective properties, but you have to remember the in this case, the unfocused laser beam has passed through the acrylic, and you can see on the shot on the right where I'm holding it in my hand, you can see the shape of the laser beam itself, which I did for a momentary pulse. Has sort of distorted and melted the acrylic, and then anything that would be reflected back, if it were capable of doing so, which it isn't, then has to come back through the clear acrylic.
Oh no!
So
so
it's useless as a laser mirror. Is my point. And so likewise, whilst obviously you should always operate your laser cutter safely, with interlocked lids in place and so forth, and resist the temptation to stare lovingly at the laser as it does its work, because of arcing and bright light from the laser and the small risk of reflective laser radiation. If you're putting your acrylic in the laser cutter, it's okay to put it face up. It's not going to make the laser beam bounce all over the case.
Yes, yeah.
That's the point. That's the protracted point I'm getting to with this demonstration. So, like at the end of the video there, it keeps panning over to show some masking tape on the head of the laser, and it's completely clean.
Yeah.
There's no laser beam of any usefulness has gone from that mirror 2 to mirror 3. And there's my little mirror to prove it. And if I hold it right up to the camera, you can sort of see the melted part on it.
I must admit that my concern when I first used mirrored acrylic face up was, is this going to bounce back? This is proof enough that it will not.
Asterisk. Take appropriate precautions.
Yes, leave the lid
on. If you're only cutting it, why not cut it face down?
Yeah.
For a number of reasons, including just keeping the surface nice and clean.
Oh yeah, that's
which we'll go into.
Yeah.
which actually brings me nicely to if I show you the piece that I should we have it on the overhead? This is the piece where I engraved on the surface, and what I did was I removed the film because I don't want to burn the protective film into the engraving. I don't want it to have to engrave through the protective film, but it did mean that like I had to do a bit of polishing to clean up the edges, and there's just a little bit at the edges where the because of the heat from the cut, there's just a little bit of clouding. It's nothing serious, but it is something to look out for. And I think that brings us quite nicely to isopropanol alcohol.
Oh yeah, I've done a lot of destructive experiments with the. If I swap over with you,
yes,
I'll point to what I am. So hello everyone. So basically, what I did was something I started noticing as I was working with this is that you get some interesting issues when you're trying to clean your mirrored acrylic. Now I find these days that using a glass cleaner and a microfiber towel, that's what works for me. I tend to brush off the dust with a little brush, and then go over it with some glass cleaner, and that'll do the trick. Originally I was using isopropyl alcohol because we have a lot of isopropyl alcohol wipes. Obviously we do electronics, so I was using that and noticing actually that when you use it on specifically the edges, hello everyone, you can see there that there's like some micro cracking happening. I'm sure I can zoom in on it. There we go. So you can see there's some really small cracks happening right around the edge, and I can see that that's probably, so when you're cutting this, you can see there's a lot of really fine lines. You might be able to see a little there from the pulses of the laser, so you can see the horizontal lines there, and it's from these that the isopropyl alcohol, I think, gets sort of stuck in there, and as it dries off very quickly, expands and cracks. So it's very noticeable actually there.
Is that coming up from the bed of the laser, like reflected up?
No.
And which way up did you cut it?
This was cut face up.
Yes.
But it happens this way on everything, regardless of whichever way you cut it. If you run isopropyl alcohol along the cut edge of some mirrored acrylic, it will react this way. Now, if I show you this other one, which you've already seen a little bit of, obviously it's rubbed off a little bit here. The label I gave it so that I could differentiate initially. You can see there's now a large gap. Now this wasn't, as I said earlier, this wasn't very much at all in the way of pressure. This was just wiping for maybe a couple of minutes with some isopropyl alcohol, and it's gone all the way down through all of these coatings. So that harsh cleaners, alcohol-based cleaners, things like that, they'll take this coating off. There's nothing to say you can't use this as an effect if you want to use that
Right. You could mask it off on the back and create some sort of an effect on purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or use a stencil.
Yeah, I think that would look quite cool. I've not tried myself, obviously, but
you probably want to dab it through rather than wipe.
Yes, because wiping does cause you to get like the grey will come off, and they'll be coating on everything, and be coating everywhere else on the mirror, all of that business. You can sort of see here that it comes off in these sort of
layers almost. It's like the silvering's one bit, and then that grey is like a protective coating over the silvering.
Yeah. So I think we have a question there.
Ooh.
Do you know if diode lasers can cut the mirrored acrylic?
Well, I mean, if your diode laser can cut, clear acrylic, then the answer is yes, it can cut it. Have I tried it? No. So that's a little bit asterisk. Your mileage might vary, but it can definitely engrave it. I tend to think of diode lasers as not really being mega suitable for cutting, although diode lasers are getting more powerful and have air assist on and are better able to be focused, and that technology is improving with beam combiners and so on. But if your diode laser is capable of cutting 3mm clear or opaque acrylic, then it should be capable of cutting 3mm mirrored acrylic.
Perfect. Good stuff. So, moving on, just a small experiment that I run. So,
someone's just saying that their diode laser or the diode lasers in their experience won't cut through clear acrylic.
Yeah.
Which, as I say, if yours can, and there are so many different types with so many varying either advertised or actual power levels with some with air assist and so on, if they're capable of doing or if you're willing to sit and let it do several passes, then you're people's results vary, is my point.
Yeah.
So if your diode can do it, then it can do clear acrylic, then it should be able to do this, because it's essentially is a clear acrylic.
Yeah.
With a mirror on the back.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. If you have any more questions, let us know. That's what we're here for.
Good question.
Yes, good question. Just to briefly come back to these ones as well, this was an experiment I ran about edge lighting.
Oh, I was curious because I never tried to edge light acrylic.
Yes, so you mentioned that to me, and
so what's the difference between these two?
So engraved on the back, engraved on the front.
Right, of course.
The both were treated in the same way though. Obviously, this one was reversed.
So this one has the engraving on the back. Yeah, so we can see the back coating has been changed.
Yeah.
And this one?
And this one was engraved on the front. And both of these they were engraved, and then I did a kiss cut around the edge, just to make sure that the design penetrated through the acrylic and would be able to catch the light. Now, this is one of our
edge light,
yeah, it's one of our RGB LED things. So this slot here was made for a 5mm design, and these are 3mm. I would suggest getting one that is the right size, but just for example's sake, I wanted to see whether it would work. Now, it is interesting.
We need a big switch to turn all the lights off, don't we?
Oh, we sure do.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at it and I'm seeing some... Oh, is that colour changing now?
That is colour changing.
Oh, so the red is... the red works really well with the rose. It's sort of... I can see a lot more of the red light. I suppose that's because of filtering to some extent.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Because the tint's in the perspex part, not in the coating part.
Yes, yeah. It's in the perspex.
Yes. So if I look at the edge now, I can see it has a reddish quality to it. So it would be a lot like putting the edge light widget through some pink acrylic.
Oh, there we go. If I hold my hand there, you can sort of see how there is red all the way through that. And the studio lights in here are quite bright. But if oh, there we go, that's perfect. So you can see how the red, it doesn't travel up that far, but the red was the best of all of these. So as Dominic said, it's likely due to filtering. If I do that...
What happens if we try it with, try with the...
I'll try it on this one.
Yes.
I think actually the effect is slightly, it's different. It's not better.
Well, the red I'm seeing, like, it doesn't show on camera quite so well, but the red light is really very similar. But I'm surprised because obviously on the one you're going through the acrylic itself, on the other you're going through the coating.
But the coating one seems to have worked better because the diffusion of the red actually can be seen to the naked eye, to us.
It's almost like we've picked out the edges of the wording with a red. Like a red paint or a highlight. Yeah, that's actually a really interesting effect. I think that would look really good in a darker room.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll see if I can get some photos and maybe post it on
Will it
on our
work
Instagram.
with the green?
I do not know. Let's find out.
It doesn't fit because I didn't think of but we can approximate it. It doesn't make great telly, but it sort of works.
There you go. You can see a little bit there.
Yeah, let's try the one with the engraving on the front. Not really.
Go that way around. Not too much. So the conclusion of that experiment is probably edge lights are slightly better from the back. Not that I know exactly why that's happening.
Well, of course, the other option, if you were looking to make an effect, would be to engrave it from the back.
Yes.
And then mount LEDs behind.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you were able to put some diffusion. So if you had a diffuse light behind the mirror. In fact, I'm going to hold one up, which you won't see at home, but I'm holding it up to one of our studio lights, and that's
you can really see all the way through it.
Yeah.
Because it.
How are we going to show that to the people at home? I don't know.
Do you have a light on your phone?
Yes.
That's an excellent idea. Here, I'll swap over with you.
Let's try it. You have to.
Yeah, I'll swap us over. Yeah, so you can see it through.
You can sort of see. I mean, it's a single LED, but you can see how that would.
Yeah, I can see lighting behind it, like a diffused light behind it would look really, really good.
Yeah, it shows through, but with some coloration.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think you can just about see.
Yeah, and it's blocked by the coating, so you would get that sort of like the definition in the letters.
Yeah.
I think that there might be slightly less definition if there was if it was really, really bright. So maybe it's not
settings.
Too bright,
let's talk about settings and powers and whatnot. So these little samples I cut on a 60 watt CO2 laser, 50-60 watts, like it's fairly standard school size laser cutter, or often you'll have 80 watts. So I did these at 15 millimeters per second, and the engraving I did for the surface level, I think it was at 400 millimeters a second at about 30% power, and the cut throughs are all done on 65% power. So or top power, whatever is given you as your limit for power on your cutter. I chose to go a bit slower. I probably could have gone a bit quicker on the laser I was using, but that cut through nice and clean, leaving a minimal of marking on the back. So on the backs of mine, even though it was on a honeycomb bed, I'm not getting much dinging or pitting. So that's my recommendation for that.
Amazing.
The only other thing I think we're going to talk about is shaping and crackling.
Yes.
Well, crackling and shaping. Are you going to talk about crackling?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just before we came online, I thought I was going to try to bend some. This is very interesting for bending, heating in any way. Even cold bending is probably not that great for it. Because what happens if I swap you over to this demo
let's
cam?
swap again. Oh, you saw a swap on the screen this time.
There you go. So if you swap us to the demo cam,
I have no idea how to do that. Oh, like that.
Something
Okay,
like that.
wasn't that hard?
So you can see here that there is a little bit of misting there, and that's where I've had the heat against the back and against the front in order to make that bend there. But it is, again, it's something you could use to affect, to create a chrome rather than a mirror.
Oh, it really is like a chrome effect.
Yeah. There is another effect you can sort of just see on the end here, though. Basically, if you hold a you can sort of see
just about see. Yeah, you can see that this part here has a different texture to this part here.
Yeah. So that was just hitting it with the heat gun a little bit too much. What it does to it is this effect. Now, obviously, you have to be careful of this. This is not what you want.
Yeah, you don't want to go too far with
it.
Like, if you want it on purpose.
Yeah.
I wonder what would happen if you did it really too long. I suppose it would all just melt off.
I think it'd probably just melt off, yeah. But you can get this really interesting bubbled effect. And I think that could be really interesting for, when I saw it, the first thing I thought was, if you did this on like this silver, and then had it against like a blue perspex underneath or something like that, you could essentially make it look like a tide, or, you know, like waves washing onto the beach.
Oh, it does look like that.
Sort of what I thought of. So maybe you could, you know, somehow use this to sketch on the back of it.
Oh, but I also guess if you masked it with something heat resistant, I don't know, like maybe another piece of acrylic or maybe even some card, and you get a straight edge for that crackling as well, where, you know, say if you had black card or something like that, something for a future experiment. Yeah. And then you could purposefully create a glazed, like a crackle border within your piece. Because, I mean, that is the real advantage of this mirrored acrylic, is it's super versatile for decorative uses.
Oh, yeah.
Shaped mirrors. I use it when I align laser cutters. If I'm doing an alignment downwards through the lens from the last mirror. So if you imagine the laser beam travels horizontally through the working part of the laser cutter, and then at the last moment it goes onto the final mirror, which I'll have my pretend mirror, at a 45-degree angle. This mirror is at a 45-degree angle, and then down through the lens. So I put a piece of masking tape under the nozzle of the laser cutter head, shoot a pulse through the laser, so I get a very fine dot below the focused lens. And then I use the mirror, I slip it underneath the head of the laser, so I can look back up at my piece of masking tape to see where the dot has fallen. Yeah. So I always have a piece of mirrored acrylic in my toolbox for that purpose.
Nice, that's cool.
And then also, if I leave it in there by accident, it's not going to shoot me in the face with some laser, which is what would happen if I used a molybdenum mirror or a glass mirror. Well, maybe not a glass mirror.
Yeah,
but the glass mirrors, we're not going to cover those. Yeah. But it would be interesting to maybe talk about them at some point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that concludes everything about mirrored acrylic.
Yeah.
Just check there's no other questions. There are not.
No. Well, thank you very much for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you again at the first of next month. First Thursday of next month.
Of August. Which I don't know what the date is. And I don't know what we're going to talk about, but watch out. It'll be in the newsletter, no doubt, and we will make sure that it's on the blog post or something like that.
Yes, absolutely.
Ahead of time.
Yes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Let's say goodbye.
Have a good one. Right. See you later, everyone.